Hi, fifth grade. It's Miss Mongell again. So, we have talked about the New England colonies, we have talked about the middle colonies. Now, we're going to start discussing the southern colonies. In 1607, the first permanent English settlement in North America was founded at Jamestown, Virginia. The success of this colony led the Pilgrims to set sail 13 years later on the Mayflower. Other southern colonies were not established until sometime after Jamestown. People from Virginia began settling further south, and new proprietors took over. Then the southern colonies began growing. They soon developed their own unique economy and culture that made them different from the colonies up north. English colonists began spreading out as their numbers grew. Many settled south of Virginia. King Charles II created a new colony called Carolina to cover the area that stretched from Virginia down to Spanish Florida. The large colony proved too big to govern, however. In 1712, Carolina split into North and South Carolina. Settlers of the southern colonies began moving into areas that were Native American hunting grounds. They also captured and enslaved Native Americans from surrounding tribes. The Tuscarora began to fight settlers in North Carolina. In 1711, the Tuscarora War began. The North Carolina militia was joined by forces from South Carolina that included hundreds of Native Americans from other tribes. In 1713, around 950 Tuscarora were killed. The tribe members who survived moved north to join the Iroquois and the sixth and smallest nation. Like the Puritans and Quakers, Catholics experienced harsh treatment in England. The Calverts, a wealthy Catholic family, wanted to set up a colony for Catholics in North America. The head of the family held the title Lord Baltimore. King Charles I gave the Calverts a charter for a new colony along the Chesapeake Bay. The Calverts named the colony Maryland. Colonists started small tobacco farms all over North Carolina's hilly regions. The new colony attracted former indentured servants, or unpaid workers, from the north. These small farms did not rely much on slavery. As a result, the northern region's cultures became different from that of the southern region. In South Carolina, the swampy land wasn't good for growing tobacco. However, rice, sugarcane, and cotton grew well. Big plantations based on slave labor brought in huge profits there. Religious groups weren't the only ones looking for a fresh start in North America. James Edward Oglethorpe was a social reformer in England. He had an idea for a new colony. He wanted to create a place where debtors could build a new life. In England, debtors were put in prison if they could not pay the money that they owed. Oglethorpe hoped that by such a colony, many families who would otherwise starve will be provided for and made masters of houses and lands. He named the new colony Georgia after King George II. The Great Wagon Road. The colonies kept growing, and soon settlers began to push further and further westward. The wilderness that lay west of the colonies was called the backcountry. At first, settlers followed old Native American trails. As more and more settlers made their way into the backcountry, the trail widened enough to allow wagons through. It became known as the Great Wagon Road. 1607, first permanent English settlement is established in Virginia. 1634, first colonists arrived in Maryland. 1663, Carolina colony is formed. 1712, Carolina splits into North and South Carolina. 1733, colonists arrive in Georgia. The backcountry led into the Appalachian Mountains. For a while, they formed a natural barrier to further expansion. When the Cumberland Gap was discovered in 1750, it offered a way through the mountains. Daniel Boone and 5 other frontiersmen were the first to travel the Wilderness Road through the Cumberland Gap into Kentucky. With this path open, settlers could soon reach the rest of North America.